lot, Sam. Hey, thanks a lot, Sam. Hey, Nitin, thanks a lot. I appreciate you taking some time to talk to about AI, generative AI. I think Nitin needs no introduction. He's an expert in AI within Collins Aerospace, and he has done significant strides in incorporating Gen AI into products, and is part of several working groups that I'm aware of that pioneers generative AI. I know what he's going to cover today is just a glimpse of what it is, but he comes with a wealth of knowledge on this area. So feel free to ask him questions and keep it engaging. I'm pretty sure you'll take away a lot from him, like I do always. I get to learn a lot from his talk. So I appreciate that. And thanks a lot, Nitin, for taking this time. And I'll get you going.
Sure. Thank you, Harish, for the introduction. Yeah, I'll share my screen, if that's all right.
So, go ahead.
Okay. Let me go to the screen mode. All right. Can you see my screen and hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about Gen AI or generative AI. And in this presentation, we're gonna cover generative AI and its uses for systems engineering in specific. This presentation would be around 40 to 45 minutes. And then since I'm screen projecting, so if there are any questions on the chat, I request host to please relay to me on regular intervals. I'll interrupt sometimes between the presentation to take up some of the questions. And then we are you can also ask questions during the session as they arise, and then we'll come up later on. So with that, we started here.
It started out like over 20 years ago as a pen pal program.
So maybe let's first talk about what generative AI is, and then we're gonna dwell into that, how it's gonna help our system engineering processes in general. So if generative AI or Gen AI are the type of AI systems, there are various types of AI systems. So generative AI is one of them, which can create new content. The important aspect is creating new content. So this is some content which does not exist before. It is not copied from the internet or not plagiarized. It's something which is altogether newly created. And this content can take multiple forms, whether it is text, picture, audio, video, code, illustration, designs, simulations. Could be multiple things depending upon the type of AI system we are using. These are generally based on large language models and diffusion models. So these are different types of AI models which are used to generate the Gen AI systems. These are trained on a vast majority of data sets to recognize patterns within the data and generate the novel or new outputs which have not been existing before. I think it's a good time to run a first poll. So host, if you can, please run the first poll, and then we'll see the results and then move on.
Okay, so the first poll is up.
Okay. All right, I think we see 100% participation here, and oh no, it's still going on. 93% participated. So we see that from the poll, I see that organizations or folks have just started to use the Gen AI in their work, but most of the organizations are still trying to evaluate which phase they are in with respect to Gen AI. So, yep, we are trying to enter a new area where Gen AI is going to help us in improving our efficiencies in systems engineering here. You'll see 67% of the folks are saying that they're not currently using Gen AI at work, but 33% say yes. All right, let's move on here. And I think all of you systems engineering needs no introduction. It's basically starts from capturing system requirements and then transmitting all it down for the generation and development of system. It is a multidisciplinary approach which requires communication with different stakeholders, decomposition of a system into smaller subsystems, and eventually going through the whole system suite to integrate it all together at the end and then deliver to the customer. And after delivery, it does not end here. Constant monitoring, management, and eventually phase out is also part of systems engineering. So how Gen AI is going to help in systems engineering here? Well, let's see that. Slide. Okay. So there are 4 key areas I see where Gen AI can help: automation, simulation and modeling, iterative design, and problem solving. These are the areas which are constantly or widely used in systems engineering as well. By automation, it talks about automating the repetitive processes, whether it's talking about performing review of requirements, finding ambiguity in requirements, determining requirement coverage, generating high-level test cases from requirements for verification and validation purposes, responding to customer queries. So all these requires some sort of repetition where whoever is the part of the team is going to look at the information repeatedly and then developing the response. In terms of simulation and modeling, the Gen AI is going to help us with translating the textual requirements, and then it can generate the models model for the system design, evaluating and simulating the models to determine that whether requirements meet the intended objective or not, or there are some course corrections are required. For iterative design, the Gen AI has a very powerful feature called contextual conversations. By contextual conversations is it by means that you can start interacting with it with the Gen AI system, and it's going to remember that your conversations from where you start. Consider it like a chat, which we can do on our teams, where we have a list of messages when we talk to another human, and then when we are trying to chat, the human can understand the context by looking at the previous messages. Here, if you're interacting with Gen AI, today you're asked it to solve a problem A, and then you do some change to your inputs and you ask to redesign or do some delta changes to the solution. So it's going to remember that what you have audited in the past and what it's doing now. So it can tell you that what difference you are doing from your past inputs. So there it helps in iterative designs where requirements evolve, the inputs evolve over a period of time, and it can give you those iterative increments of the output. And also it's going to remember the series of conversations. So if you want to look back at the thread and see what's changed from your initial baseline to a different baseline, it can give you a quick comparison, which takes a lot less time than a manual analysis of it. With problem solving, whether if your system encounters a failure condition, then analyzing log files, finding patterns where the failures are happening, possibly helping out with the root cause of the failure also. These are some of the potentials Gen AI brings to the table. Now, all of this is possible when Gen AI technology can be trusted. Right now, the major question is trust. Can we trust it? Can we trust it enough to use it in our work and depend upon it to produce meaningful outcomes so that it can help improve our work? Well, we are in process of building trust, but we are not there yet. But there are 2 ingredients which can definitely help in building trust. The first is training. There is a saying, garbage in, garbage out. So the more better we train our AI system, the more better results it can give to us when we start using that system. And there is a whole different domain here is called prompting. Now, prompting is also a skill, and there are many courses available on internet on how to do better prompting. Prompting is nothing but asking the Gen AI system questions. what way you articulate your sentences, what way you articulate your information which you need from the AI system or want AI system to generate is all part of prompting. The prompts can vary from a single line to a big paragraphs up to 6,000 words for some open source Gen AI systems. And then practically depends upon the size of your AI system. So the more effective your prompting is, the more effective results you're going to get. And as a result of it, you're going to build more trust with the Gen AI systems. You will start to feel more comfortable that it is trying to understand your conversation and giving you the meaningful results. Any questions here at this time? I'm not able to see my chat window. Oh, I see it now. Yeah, if we have a project to design the new France code key bridge, what LLMs exist to support such a project? So when we talk about LLMs, there are multiple providers of LLMs. We have ChatGPT, we have Olama, we have Falcon. Meta has its own AI LLM-based systems. So these LLMs are trained on generic data sets. So data sets which are available on Wikipedia or different books or different categories of books. So these LLMs comes with different categories. And after that, if you want to use it for a specific purpose, like talked in the question for designing one particular bridge or construction design, then we need to train it to a domain-specific information or knowledge. Once it's trained on a domain-specific information knowledge, then it will start to give you meaningful results. Otherwise, you're going to get very generic results which are not value-added for the organization. So utilizing it specifically for systems engineering, because it's a specialized field, you have a specialized knowledge which is existing in the organization, which makes system engineering a lot complex. That's why these LLMs require specialized training first before they can be used or deployed. Can we run poll 2 at this time?
Oh, sorry. Are we doing a poll?
Yeah, can we run a poll 2 at this time? Second poll?
Yep. Just start a second.
All right, we're trying to understand that whether organizations are currently planning to integrate Gen AI in systems engineering. Okay, I think we got majority of responses in, and I can share the results here. So we can see that there is a big movement on Gen AI. Many organizations are trying to learn and experiment to see that whether they can use Gen AI as part of their day-to-day engineering work, whether it can add benefits and values. But to be very fair and honest, specifically for systems engineering, we don't have a concrete data today which can say that Gen AI is really helpful. Although there is a lot of positive side of it, there are a lot of hopes that Gen AI can eventually pitch in and help with systems engineering, but there is no quantified results available that implementation of Gen AI has helped system engineering reach from level A to level B. So we are still in exploration phase here at this time. But good information that many companies starting to look into Gen AI. All right, I'll move on now. Okay. There is one more question. Is sample size of 20 useful for these polls? May not be. I think more sample size is the better representation. But if we go with the current audience size, yeah, we can take it as a baseline. Okay. Key applications. So the there are multiple applications which we can assume and evolve and think of for Gen AI for systems engineering, but I feel that there are four key areas where Gen AI can pitch in and help. One is requirements engineering. A lot of system engineering is related with textual requirements or plain English descriptions. And from these plain English descriptions, it requires the essential skills and domain knowledge, domain expertise to develop system requirements, which will serve as a high-level requirements for your subdomains to follow. Now, this particular activity can be worked with Gen AI. It can take the plain English descriptions and based on the information you gave him about the system engineering processes and talking about requirement standards and the way the requirements are decomposed, it can develop the system requirements for you. But again, the question is that you should not be blindly trusting it. It it will generate the result for you, but how to use that result and evaluate, there should be always a human involved in that. The Gen AI can give options, results for you, but you cannot trust them. It does not have decision-taking capability. It seems like it will have decision-taking capability, but it does not. So we need to have a human involved all the time for the any kind of decision making we wanted to do with the systems engineering. It can also help us in consistency checking. If we supply the standard as a learning to our model, it can help us in identifying ambiguous requirements, requirements which are not meeting the certain standards. So these kinds will definitely cut down your review time and help you save more and become more efficient and be more agile in your responses in requirement generation. For systems modeling, the Gen AI can generate models from the textual requirements. It can integrate models with the modeling tools, supply the synthetic inputs and observe results so that we can get a comparative analysis beforehand, before implementing the system itself. And then it can also help generate the UML or SysML diagrams from textual requirements for better descriptions and representations. All these activities take a lot of manual effort and can be easily worked out by Gen AI, but requires validation by a human at the end who can say that, yes, this is right versus what is not right. It can also help us in trade studies where we can give different set of requirements or different problem statements and can tell that what is the relative differences between approaches by examining the input factors. It can help in sensitivity analysis where we can determine that if we change certain parameters of a system, what the system response is going to be. And in the last, more of a generic aid which Gen AI provides is in terms of documentation and knowledge management. Documentation is really key benefit I see, and I see many folks, at least in my organization, also starting using it. So there are AIs which can be deployed for organization, but although it can be trained for specific organization processes, and then it can be used to query questions about processes. Consider it like this: you have your system development plan, and then you have tailoring done to the system development plan, fed it to AI system. The new team members come to your team and talk about systems engineering processes, and then you always need to wait for expert to answer certain questions. Now, if these plans are being fed to a Gen AI system, then that system can be your first go-to person or first go-to tool for anybody new joining the team for asking questions. And if that system is not able to give the satisfactory answers, then a human can be involved. So you can cut down a bit on the training side of it. The other aspect of it is there are AI systems which can be integrated with emails. And if there are official communication happening between a customer and an organization, then your Gen AI system can evaluate the responses which have been sent in the past, evaluate your current system artifacts, and then help you draft a response back to the customer. So many engineering coordination memos or ECMs are done this way, that you will feed the information to your system that what is customer is requiring. It will analyze your requirements, analyze your system design, other system artifacts, standards, and then crafts a response back that this, with analysis of system, this is the response for this query. Now you can evaluate that whether this response or whatever response generated by AI system is good enough. And if then after the human evaluation, it can be sent back to customer. And usually this process typically take weeks, because when a customer request arrives, it flows through the organization channels from marketing to design to engineering, and then engineering, it flows down further to domain experts, and then sending a reply back. There is a big cycle which is cut back if we use this system, and helps you to gain more efficiency and cost advantages. I'll give a pause here to check any questions on the chat. Okay. What are the challenges in obtaining trustworthy data based on published papers vetted by a peer organization? I'll come to that. I will have a slide on the data side of it, or the challenges in obtaining the data. So we'll cover it there. All right, moving on. How we can implement Gen AI in a system engineering environment? There are basically two approaches: centralized versus decentralized approach. In a centralized approach, you can assume that, let's say if there's a team of 10, one of the team member is an AI agent. It's a virtual agent. It can be a server or it can be a website, but it has a specific role within the team. So like the team works together, this particular AI agent will perform its role. Now, it depends upon whatever the role is assigned to the agent, whether it's a review of artifacts, whether it's modeling, simulation, or design, whether it is handling the communication with the customer. So whatever, or whether we talk about assigning him developing the verification and validation tests scripts based upon the change which are done in requirements. So based upon the role is assigned to the AI assistant or AI agent, it can serve as a virtual team member. So that's called centralized approach, where you are, instead of everybody using AI, there is an AI agent which is doing its own role. The other aspect is a decentralized approach, where every team member is empowered to use the workflows and integrate Gen AI in it. So for example, if the processes needs to be modified in such a way that if a person is working on, let's say, if we take an example of requirements again, and it pushes the requirements through review. So the Gen AI will take it as an input and provides its input and provides its intended output to the team member. And then the team member can use that output and improve his artifacts and then pushes it to the next level. So instead of doing one specific role, you can define which processes you want AI to be involved in or part of, and then you integrate the AI as part of those workflows. So those workflows use different tools, and then an integration of Gen AI with different tools are required. Today, there are multiple tools available where AI can be integrated. MATLAB is doing it. Cameo is doing it. Enterprise Architect also has provision to integrate third-party connections in that, and then also AI can be part of it because it can be accessed through APIs. So centralized versus decentralized, there are two kinds of approaches can be used. The future is more of combination of these approach, where you will have AI assistants which will be doing a specific work. In addition, that every team member is also going to use AI as part of their workflows. So that's how the implementation approach typically looks like for systems engineering, or at least that's how it's evolving at this time. All right, question. Are there any results of successes using Gen AI in systems engineering, or it's too early yet? As I told at the starting of the presentation, it's a bit too early at this time. There are some initial successes, but you cannot count on them that they are consistent across industries today. The industries across, I would say across the engineering companies, they are trying to use or implement it as part of their workflows at this time. There are no meaningful outputs known at this time, but there is a lot of hope. Like everything, Gen AI has its own set of challenges. There are multiple types of challenges which Gen AI is faced with. The first is technical challenges. Of course, the LLM are trained on vast majority of datasets, but they are generic in nature. Means they are not specifically trained for a particular industry, whether we talk about aerospace industry or auto industry or medical. So you need to do one more set of training specific to those industry standards, regulation, and processes, which is a time-consuming and costly affair because you are doing something which is specific for industry, and if that thing does not turn out well, you cannot repurpose it for something else. The effort which is gone for learning of system is basically lost if you don't get the desired result. Other key aspect of AI system is hallucination. Now, hallucination is a term used in Gen AI to describe when an AI system produces fake outputs. The way Gen AI systems are designed, if you ask a question, the best it is designed for giving a best response. Sometime, if the training data is not accurate, or the prompt or the question which you're trying to ask is out of that domain. For example, if a LLM is trained on images, let's example, and if you talk about something on the audio, which is totally irrelevant to its domain, then it can try to produce outputs which are fake in nature or factually incorrect. And that is very dangerous because if you trust on those and take decisions based on those, then it can land into a bigger problem for the organization. Other challenge is model interoperability. Sometimes today's Gen AI models are basically can access different types of information, different varieties of information, whether it is a textual, video, audio. But there is for example, if you expect in a particular system engineering model, if you expect a model to only take design models or as an input, and if your Gen AI model is not designed to accept those design models as an input, then you have a compatibility problem. And if your organization is today using one type of model, tomorrow it uses a different type of model or switches to a different tool, then your whole modeling format changes. For example, today you're using textual requirements. Tomorrow you transform your system to move to model-based systems engineering where there are no textual requirements anymore, but the inputs is models, but your previous LLM is trained on textual-based requirements. Now you have a problem. You have a retraining problem, which is again a costly affair to retrain and get the same level of performance which it was supposed to do previously. There is one more question on the chat. Let's see that. I have heard that the quality of the AI response is 100% dependent upon the quality of the AI prompting. Is that right? Yes, it is 50% right, because there are two aspects of Gen AI response. One is training and one is prompting. So prompting, asking good questions to AI is a skill which needs to be learned. And it is almost responsible for 50% of answering or quality of responses which are being generated by AI. Yes, you're right. Previously, AI was called expert systems, and the major advancement of AI has happened in last 7 years or so, because the storage and computation become a lot inexpensive when it was in the past, and that's one of the reason that of evolution of AI in recent past. Talking about organization challenges, there are a lot of organization challenges dealing with AI. The first is getting a fear from the team members that AI is not here to replace their jobs, but to make their work effective. I think the same fear came when the computers were newly introduced or when MS Office came. that's going to take the typewriter job, so it's going to take the writer's job. So we need to, like, organization needs to have a systematic change management implementation plan where it can build confidence with the team members and employees to understand that this is here not to replace jobs, but to help our propel our company do more things than we originally desired to. It's, of course, it requires a lot of key leadership messaging, but that's a constant challenge which organizations face when they are trying to implement AI in their workflows. Skill gap and training needs having folks used to uh, understanding about AI, large language models, what is the how to train versus what not to train on the model, how to make sure that they are not doing, if they're trusting a Gen AI outputs, uh, they are not playing with the IP infringement or patent infringement of other companies' sensitive data. So these challenges sometimes make AI more costly to implement, because if you have to involve legal aspects where every output needs to be trusted and filtered so that you're not using anyone else's intellectual property, can be very costly. Other aspects is regulatory environments and ethical considerations. Now, who owns the accountability of AI generated content? So we talked about the AI generated content is um, basically is dependent upon the training and the prompting. So if a AI content is generated and if it's not meeting the intended results, then who are you going to blame? Are you going to blame the training? Or are you going to blame the prompting? Or are you going to blame the both? So the accountability aspects when things don't go right are not set up today. The process is not evolved and matured so far. So which can give lot of role ambiguities or when we try to do the root cause analysis. Then certification of AI assisted systems, especially for specific industries like safety critical applications, are tough because regulatory environments have still not evolved or produced guidance for using AI related systems in safety critical products. And if those guidance are not available, then when you go to those regulatory agencies or compliance representatives, they are more likely to trust more traditional computing versus AI computing, purely because the guidance is not available at this time. If we talk about aerospace, the guidance is starting to become available mainly by EASA. They have published a lot of papers which can give some guidance, or which today in some format give some guidance of which kind of AI-based outputs can be used as part of safety critical products. And biases training data, of course, depends upon what training data you use your system on, can yield in a lot of behaviors, different behaviors. Okay, looking at the question, which publicly available LLM is best suited for systems engineering today? Very good question. There is a LLM called Claude. I will write here to the host. It has a free version and a paid version. So this is best suited for engineering applications, including systems engineering. Now, this has a free account where you can ask a certain number of questions every day. Then it waits for 24 hours before it gets reset. And then you have to wait for a day to ask more questions to it. But if you buy the membership or premium account, then you are basically can ask unlimited number of questions, or the number of questions you can ask increase. So that I found it really good with um, for systems engineering activities and other engineering activities in general. I use Cloud AI for developing some of Python scripts for simulation, and it has really made my life a lot easier. And actually, in full disclosure, some of this presentation is also made with Cloud.ai. Some of the contents of this presentation. Okay, let's see one more question. It seems that single model designed to provide output for all aspects of generative AI is not yielding meaningful use cases. Yes, that's true because it depends upon what the parameters model is trained on. Would it be realistic to develop dedicated models that focus on different applications and use a controller to sort and deliver the highest quality output? Yes, pretty much possible because it's not just one model. When a company is adopting the Gen AI for their workflows, they look at their different sub-organizations. For example, if you talk about high-level organizations, they have operations, they have manufacturing, they have engineering. In engineering itself, there are multiple portfolios. If you talk about business portfolios, there are different product lines and products which organizations work on, and using a single model for all those product lines may not yield. So different models are deployed for different kind of or different types of business portfolios, and they integrate each other, and there is a top level LLM design which manages all those portfolios. So they operate at the hierarchy. For if you talk about the portfolios at a higher level, there is a different LLM which has a different understanding, and versus when you go to drill down details, there are different sub LLMs which are being used. Chat GPT gives this flexibility where you can use when you try to implement Chat GPT, there is a free version available called Chat GPT 3. I think it's free to download and use. So you can configure your LLMs on specific needs. There are configuration parameters which you can give to use, and then you can give your own training data as well. There is one interesting aspect I want to share. Chat GPT 3. Today we are using Chat GPT 4.5, but the first primitive Chat GPT 3 was trained on 45 terabytes of data. Chat GPT 4.5 today, we use more than 150 terabytes of data today. So it tells that how much effective those models are coming. And there is no limit when they are publicly available. Chat GPT 4.5 is also publicly available to use, but maybe some licensing fee may apply. But if you buy Chat GPT 4.5 today, and then you train with your own data sets, then you can build even more effective system than Chat GPT 4.5. I know one peer of mine, he was also past member of Incose. He has downloaded one AI LLM or Gen AI system called Olama. After downloading that, he has given access to all his emails to Olama, and Olama started to understand all his emails. Now, next time somebody else types or somebody else sends an email to that person, then Olama understands from the contextual history of those conversations that what is the response it should type. So, and it's all done through a simple Python script. The system runs, identifies emails. Whenever new email comes, it drafts a sample response for review, and the person reviews it and sees that whether the response which is sent is appropriate or not. If it's not appropriate, then it's a revised response the person writes, and the Olama learns again from the revised response that what revised response has been written, and it's evolving over a period of time. And all this is done in a single PC, a i7 engineering laptop. So that's how powerful it can be. Our computers today can support it. And this Olama is trained on, I think, all of the Wikipedia context today. So, and they keep on churning different more versions of LLM with the new training data. And the size is also manageable. I think the size of Olama is somewhere in between 1 to 2 gigs, which can easily install on a personal laptop. Let's look at one more question. How secure is information provided to online AIs? Good question here. So if the information we provide to online AI, it should be safe to assume that this information is recorded publicly and they are used to further evolve the LLM-based systems. That's why it is very important that if you're using a company-sensitive information, you should, unless you are authorized, you should never type that information on a publicly used Gen AI system. If you are using a publicly publicly available Gen AI system, then you be very careful in sharing the information. But if you download the publicly available LLM or Gen AI system on your laptop and you disconnect it from the rest of the world or internet, and then you ask the information, then your information is secure because it has no channel to go to the internet or transmit back. Some of the AI-based systems have a configurable switch settings that to record the conversation or to not record the conversation. And when you buy paid versions of those LLMs, you have a flexibility that whatever information you are typing to LLM, that is not transmitted back to the LLM as a learning content. It remains as a contextual conversational context. Yeah. And I think the bottom line here is that Gen AI can help us create content, create creative content, but we should never be used it for decision making, because if you start using it for decision making in today's context, in future it could be, but in today's context, if we use, then the results are still not reliable to us. We definitely need a human in the loop who can make decision making based on the content provided by Gen AI. Next slide. All right, I think there's one thing I also want to talk about is learn versus unlearn aspect of Gen AI before we talk about this outlook. Learn aspect, I think everybody understands that how Gen AI systems learn from the information we provide to it. But one important aspect to understand is that organizations change, they evolve over a period of time. The mergers and acquisitions happen. So when those things happen, the company policies, the structured engineering methodology changes. And as a result of this change, if an AI model is already trained on a previous set of data, it needs to unlearn. So LLMs provide us one flexibility called unlearn. So you can selectively tell the LLM model on what to unlearn so that the generated content which you give is always relevant and up to date with the latest guidance given to the system. So like there's a learn capability, there is an unlearn capability also. There are some policy document of the organization which become obsolete. So the AI agents which are responsible for Q&A in those organizations, they unlearn those policy documents and replace it by new policy documents so that your system always stays relevant. Okay, now we talk about the outlook here. Near term, I think pretty much possible or looks in the realms of possibility at this time is that Gen AI can gonna enhance our multimodal capabilities. It can communicate in multiple formats. And while it's communicating in multiple formats, we can help it build a better domain understanding by customizing it specifically for organizations or for specific processes. And then it is consistently improving integration with systems modeling tool. MATLAB is one which I found the best, where it integrates because it integrates with multiple Gen AI LLMs, either available publicly or installed in-house through APIs, and gives the best results with simulations. Looking at a little bit in the future, next 2 to 3 years, we can see that AI agents going to come into picture, and they are going to take over some of the specific aspects of designing systems, whether it's talking about a requirement review aspect or customer response aspect, or we talked about the automated verification and validation piece aspect. So those specific agents are going to take those responsibilities, and the system engineering teams are going to focus on high-level aspects of system design, and low-level tasks can be offloaded to Gen AI-based systems. It's going to significantly cut the cost because some of the low lifecycle activities, when you talk about which are more iterative or repetitive processes, which companies usually outsource, it's going to cut down the cost of those, and maybe having AI working as not a full replacement, but a partial replacement for those. I know some organizations which do high-level test case and procedure development from requirements today, and then have engineering teams evaluate that how effectively those test cases and procedures are written from, and then claim it for credit. And have it as a formal artifact. So your baseline is already developed by AI, and then your engineering team is basically reviewing those artifacts and making sure that it is in line with the expectations, and then putting as a formal artifact for review. Looking at one more question which came in the chat. Can AI multitask at the same time? Walk and chew gum. Yes, AI can multitask at the same time, but it requires more processing capability. It can have multiple contextual conversations at the same time. Assume it, for example, there is an AI computer in your organization or AI portal, different user interact to it, and it will understand and remember context of different users. For example, today I have a, let's say, Gen AI system, which I ask a policy-based question today, that what is my vacation policy of the organization, or what is my workflow in my document looks like. Now it's going to remember that conversation. And if I give a next prompt, hey, last time I asked you about vacation policy, is there any update to the vacation policy? Then it's going to remember that I asked a question about vacation, and it will only tell or draft me a response if there is a change in the policy or not. So yes, it remembers context, but it requires a lot of computing powers, and it depends upon the digital technologies team of that particular organization, that how much of parallel threads of conversations they can support with their computation flexibilities and computation power available. Looking more towards the future, more in 5 to 10 years time frame, is transformative potential. Looks a bit scary sometimes, but I think our system engineering is going to be equally complex in the future. I think Gen AI is going to, with its current capabilities, if they grow at the same rate, it's going to cut down the system development time from years to months. And then it will help to manage the complexities which multiple humans use to maintain together by a single AI agent. And that's the true power which it will unleash. And we definitely use Gen AI and human in coordination together. But it's still hazy at this time that whether Gen AI is going to take part in decision making or not. In near term, and maybe next 3 to 4 years, we do not see any path where Gen AI is going to help in decision making. But frankly, I'm not sure about the future. I see different conflicting opinions. But future is relatively unknown whether Gen AI or AI in general is going to part in decision making or not. Because purely it is, if you see from today's perspective, we are giving it data and it is giving us recommendation or processed data or a refined data today. Now, I'm not sure that is there any change in the way that we're going to supply or train the data to AI systems so that can help us in decision making in future. So that's unknown at this time. But in near term and what we see in near future, companies are going to implement or take advantage of Gen AI and then try to see whether it can yield results in efficiency increase with systems engineering practices in those organizations. Okay, next slide. How we can get started with Gen AI implementation in an organization. Typical workflow, we start with high value, lowest risk applications, select tools for piloting, measure its results, and evaluate effectiveness. That's the standard process. But then I would say, my experience when we see how we want to Gen AI, if we are implementing Gen AI, especially for systems engineering, then we should try to give the tasks which are more textual in nature, because majority of the organizations today still have their artifacts available as a plain English text. We can feed those documents as an input to our Gen AI as a training, and then use it for developing responses to whether it's a customer queries, asking questions, or asking it to extract and analyze data where a human is involved. These are the typical first step before we go any advance, where we go or add any advancement to even develop an AI agent. First is play generic, then become special or perform a specified function. And then, of course, training is definitely powerful. If you want to develop effective Gen AI system in long run, then of course collaborating with an AI organization or academia is preferred, because they can start building a scratch the LLM and start training on the data which is more relevant to your organization processes, so that your systems or your organization can focus more on giving best training data, and they will customize the AI companies can customize, or the academia can customize the data for you, and continuously fine tune the models based on the organization experiences with the data. Finally, some notes from my end. It's not a prescription, but just some thought which I feel that might be good to consider when we are talking about implementation of Gen AI. Gen AI is going to come. Whatever we say, whether it is effective, not effective, eventually every organization is going to try it. And if for some organization, if it works well, then they're going to pioneer ahead. They're going to be significantly ahead from other organizations. So it's up to us whether to take advantage of it, or before your competition takes advantage of it and becomes better at it. So eventually, everybody is going to go to Gen AI, but of course, early adopters here definitely going to reap the fruit with their own added advantage. In today's aspect, always involve human for decision making. When Gen AI builds trust, I'm telling from my example. When I started using Gen AI, I'm hardly using Google search or Bing search anymore. I always use Copilot or Google Gemini. Now, sometimes I trust it too much that I don't check or validate the decisions which Gen AI provides to me. And then I directly use it for my work or whatever personal project I'm handling. And it has given me some wrong results. So careful decision making is always required when we wanted to definitely use it for work. Identify hallucinations, making sure that we validate that whatever data is generated by AI is factually correct, is required. And then we also, as an organization, if we are trying to take advantage of Gen AI, then developing regulations of what data to go for a training for AI system. That is very important, because if there is no regulation to it, and if you put random data for training without a careful or intentional understanding, then it can definitely build garbage for us in long term. And then more than advantage, it will become a burden to maintain such system. At the end, we need to get all team members understand about Gen AI, learn about LLMs, start using them more often as part of their work, and try every engineer or every systems team member in a particular systems organization should have an intention that how can I offload more and more of my repetitive work to AI, and I can be involved in higher lifecycle activities, which could be ideation of systems, decision making, understanding compliance, or even articulating problem in a better way, which is also called prompting. We'll look at the question in the chat. Okay, the question is about trust. Even with all the necessary information for quality output, in addition to sorting, is there a consideration for fact checking, either in integrated or in separate model? Well, answer to this is yes. I see that some organization deploy, or at least I read in case studies, I have not seen any real organization, but in case studies, there is a possibility of two models working in tandem. One model is used to generate information, and other model is used to validate that information. So you get one level of filtering done before the information reaches the end user. And then there is another step of evaluation by end user. So two counter models are usually built. One is to generate, and other is to fact check. And they're also trained on a similar type of data to make sure that they're tuned in such a way that they are able to extract outputs and evaluate outputs there. Okay, I think this is my last slide here. And I would like to see if there are any more questions before we wrap up. Sorry, we slightly ran over the time here. Okay, one more question. Does training AI or LLM simply involve feeding it inputs, prompts, documents, images, data? To add this, how does an LLM get corrected if it's poisoned by improper inputs? So training AI simply involve feeding inputs. Yes, that's one format. Definitely can be used. There are modes of operation of AI or LLM. So either it's in training mode or it's in conversational mode. When it's in training mode, you're only supplying information and it's adding to its own learning to find patterns. But when it's in conversational mode, then you're using it. You cannot use it in two modes at the same time. You can, for a particular user, you can use it in training mode or conversational mode. So I hope that answers it. And then how a LLM gets corrected if it's poisoned by improper inputs. Well, this is very tricky. It's very difficult to understand that which data has caused a problem in LLM, which caused it to produce the factually incorrect information. Usually the current practice is to unlearn everything and then relearn, which of course is a time-consuming process, but it's very difficult and practically challenging to get an LLM corrected. Many folks started altogether on their learning journey or use altogether different LLM rather than using the current LLM. So there is no real solution available on this today. It's an active topic of research at this time. Any other questions? Okay.
Looks like there's no more questions. Thanks a lot, Nitin. This was really enriching, and I really appreciate your time and effort that you put into provide us with your insights and sharing. If you do have any questions for the folks still, I would continue to reach out to the chapter, and we'll try to see if we need another session around this. But again, thanks a lot, Nitin. I know you have done a lot of hard work in trying to summarize this for our team, and really appreciate and can't thank you enough for your really enriching experience, enriching talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I think, yes, there is a question. Could we summarize this as AI as an assistant, trust but verify? Of course, sure. I think, yeah, that's a good aspect to look at it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your
Thanks a
time.
lot, Nitin. Appreciate it.